Hello everybody, what is up? Welcome to another video. This video is on texting, and I think this is a huge thing for this day and age because a lot of people start relationships from texting, and especially with online dating apps, it's kind of how you start going on dates. So it's important. I have a few tips for you guys, some do's and don'ts that will just help you out with that. The first do is do reply promptly. So it says that there's a certain etiquette to being timely with texting and expectation that replies will come as soon as possible. I think a lot of people tend to stress out about responding too soon or waiting a certain amount of time to text somebody back. I think the answer is just to not worry about it too much. Don't think too much about it. If you have something to say, you can say it. But at the same time, if it's not an appropriate time, don't worry about it because you're not beholden to your advice. So just do whatever feels right for you. Next one is keep text short. Texts are a shorter medium of communication. So they're kind of like a answering machine. So if it's too long, it becomes like a burden to the person on the receiving end. And there's a lot of room for miscommunication, which is hard. So if you have a lot to say, my tip is just to call them instead. I know that a lot of people would rather text, especially for me. I have never been comfortable with calling people, so it does sound a lot nicer to text, but I have seen that it's a lot more possible for miscommunication, so it's better just to be safe than sorry. Yeah. So the next one is reread text before you sending them. I know that autocorrect errors can be funny sometimes, but it just shows that you don't care a lot. And yeah, so just take time and be nice and just take time to reread your texts. Okay, next one is to use proper grammar. Stay on the side of caution. Some people get annoyed with bad grammar, so just be aware of that. And it's fine to use some emojis to convey your message, but don't go overboard because it can easily get from endearing to annoying. So just be careful with that. Okay, some more do's. There's a tip that says focus your early texts on making plans. An author of 20-something, 20 everything, her name is Christine Hassler. She suggests that, she says, much pre-date texting smothers any spark you might have on an actual first date. And she says it makes you overthink what you say and do instead of being your natural self. So I think that's an important thing to be aware of. They're kind of just save some room to talk about new things on your actual date. It will give you more to talk about. So I think that is a good tip. And then another girl, her name is Emily Morse. She is a host of Sex with Emily podcast, and she calls this concept premature escalation. And it says, since our whole world is so instant right now, people can craft entire personas through their slew of texts. By the time you meet your partner for the actual date, you've built this whole image and fantasy in your head of who you think they are, and then they turn out to be totally different. And I think that's really interesting. I think that it kind of creates room for, like how she said, you build this whole persona of somebody in your head while you're texting someone, because they're not going to be, like, that's not them. They're texting, like, they're filtering through what they're saying. That's not them. So just, I think the better idea is just kind of plan a date early so that you maybe don't get your hopes up, or you don't drag it on too longer than it needs to be, or have unrealistic expectations. So that's an interesting view or point. The next one is be direct and assertive. If you are genuinely interested in someone, suggest a specific day and time for your date. Don't just text, hey, you want to do something this weekend? Rather say like, whoa, say, hey, I'd love to take you out for dinner on Wednesday night. And if you can make a reference to a previous interaction you've had with them, that's even better if you've met them before. So yeah, I think that is a important thing because it's not really attractive when someone says like, hey, want to do something this weekend? Like, I think that for me, I've seen that when people actually take time to plan things out and have a date in mind and they're assertive and they take action, I think that's a lot more attractive and I'm more willing to go on the date. Okay, here's an important tip. If you decide to end a texting relationship with someone, the discomfort of not knowing where he or she stands could be more distressing and energy draining than knowing they're no longer interested. So if you're not interested in someone, be honest and tell them. I know that a lot of people tend to ghost people because they're uncomfortable and they think it's easy to just not respond, but it's not very nice. And so just have good manners and just tell them instead of wasting their time. It is hard. It's hard, I know, but it's a lot nicer. Okay, let's jump into the don'ts. Don't text in inappropriate moments like movie theater, play, religious services, meals. It's just important. It's bad manners to the people around you, and just be present. Take time to be with the people you are with in real life, and then when it's convenient, text the person that you want to text. Next don't forget to check the recipient. This one, it was just saying how sometimes we can send texts to the wrong people, and that's definitely awkward. So to avoid that, just double check who you want to text to avoid any distress or awkward situations. Okay, next don't wait X amount of days to reach out. So a dating expert called Dr. Nerd Lover told us that you should touch base sooner rather than later. If you don't text them soon, or if you're sitting around waiting for them, they could either forget they gave you their number or assume you aren't interested. And what you say early on is important, but it's not as important as just reaching out. So you have nothing to lose. Just reach out. If you wait a certain amount of days, they might, like, it just makes you think about them too much. And just be confident and assertive, like we talked about earlier. Okay, the next don't is, don't just text hey. Ansari and Dr. Kleinberg, from the website Honest, they said, it may seem perfectly harmless, but it says more than you think. It's generic, dull, and lazy. It makes the recipient feel like they aren't very special or important. And it's easy to ignore because there is no information being shared. So a good first text will explain who you are in reference to the previous interaction in some way. Or like if you are like a dating app, like bringing up something that's in their bio or something with their pictures. I know I have seen that too, like just a text that says, hey, it's just not very exciting and it doesn't really make me want to respond necessarily. So just be aware of that. Next one is don't message them countless times a day. It seems needy and desperate. Send a short text saying, thinking about you or looking forward to seeing you later today. Because you could be coming across too clingy. This is important. It kind of goes on to what we were talking about earlier. Like, save room for real life interaction. Don't text them too much, especially early on. It could be cute to just say like, hey, I'm excited for a date later, and then they'll just shows that you're thinking about them. but it's just not clingy or needy, so that's good. And then don't say too much. Don't say too much. Send one for every text you receive. So I know a lot of people like it. There's a lot more blue than there is white, so just make sure it's even and just kind of gauge where the other person is at. Okay, there is some good advice. There's a dating expert on YouTube, and his name is Matthew Hussey. And basically he talks about he says if you are always the one starting the conversation, or it gets or you get monosyllabic responses, you may want to rethink. Okay, and then there is a dating expert his name is Matthew Hussey, and he's on YouTube, and he basically just says that if you are the one always starting the conversation, you may want to rethink. It's totally reasonable that someone could be busy you simply don't know, but it's best bet just to back off for a day. Don't fall into the trap of getting upset and start questioning the whole relationship. Don't push or be over dramatic. And then he goes on to say, if they don't text you back for over 3 days, you could send one more text saying, I had a great meal at the new Thai restaurant, hope you're cool. Something simple. And then if you don't hear back from them, just forget them. Forget about it. That you don't need them, and you'll find someone better. But you can just send one more text if they don't respond within 3 days. I thought that was a cool little tip. And then he also talked about if someone comes back into your life, like that have previously ghosted you or weren't interested, and if they come back in a couple of months and kind of want to start talking again, he just says to ignore them, because those are not the kind of people that you want. It just shows that they're flaky and they're just not really into it. So don't let them back in. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Watch my other videos. Thank you.